Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning into episode 511 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube. And regular viewers will be able to tell straight away that in this format, it means we have got an interview. It feels like it's been a little while since we've done one, but actually I looked and it hasn't been that long. My mind is playing tricks on me. Today in the hot seat, all the way from Paris, we have got somebody who is a refounder of a brand. We will explain what that means in a moment, but there seem to be a few more of these kind of refounder stories. Basically, somebody who comes along and discovers a brand that was big back in the day and was very successful, but has either disappeared or fallen on hard times or whatever, and then this person refounds the brand. The brand in question is Bienaime, which was originally founded in 1935, but then kind of died a death, as some brands do. And one day, the subject of today's interview, Cecilia Mergui, stumbled upon the brand, did some research about it, and a couple of years ago, she brought it back to life. Now, the story, there are so many things to cover as far as the story of this brand is concerned. I will explain what I mean in a moment, but I think the first thing we need to do is give a warm Persolaise welcome to Cecilia Mergui, who is joining us live from Paris. Cecilia, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to have this talk with you today.
Not at all. The pleasure is ours. Thank you. People have already started tuning in. I know that some people are very excited about this interview because they've already discovered the brand and they enjoy the products very much. And so they're looking forward to finding out more about you. But some people are sort of vaguely aware of the brand, but haven't tried any of the products at all. And so they will be tuning in as well. I know that some people will have questions they want to ask, but regular viewers, you know what I'm going to say. Hang on to the questions for the moment, because if you post them in the live chat, I'm likely to miss them. So I will tell you when it's okay to ask a question, probably in about 20-25 minutes. We have already got people. Oh, Tracy is here saying, this all looks beautiful and bougie. Well, thank you very much. we try. And Eric is joining us just long enough to say, I can only stay for a few minutes. That's fine. You can watch the recording when we're done. Omar says, thanks for introducing this, Persolaise. Their packaging indeed looks gorgeous. I have a feeling we might be talking about packaging because you're a little bit of a packaging freak, aren't you, Cecilia?
Right.
So it's difficult to know where to start. In our little pre-chat a few minutes ago, Cecilia and I were saying that it's going to be tough to cover everything. You should have taken that call. I would have loved to have known who was phoning. Have you cancelled it? Okay. It's difficult to know where to start because the story of you refounding the brand is interesting in itself, but the actual story of the founding of the original Bienaimé brand from 1935 is pretty interesting too. For example, a lot of people may not be aware that it is named after a real person. There was an actual Robert Bienaimé, and he happens to be the nose behind Quelques Fleurs, which is, one of the sort of all-time classics. So we need to talk about the creation of the original brand. We need to talk about your refounding of the brand. We need to talk about how you have sort of taken old perfumes and recreated them for a modern audience. We need to talk about the packaging. We need to talk about the different products. In short, we need to have a part 2 and a part 3. But I think I would like to start, if I may, in the sort of more recent past, I should say, the more recent past. You were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were at a kind of antiques fair or a yard sale or something like that. And you came across a powder box that caught your attention. So take the story up from there.
Yes. So yeah, like I told you when we talked before, I've always been a big fan of Art Deco movement. Ever since I was a little girl, I was always drawn to everything that was from this artistic movement, all the lines, all the designs, even the illustrations, I always found very, very beautiful. So ever since I had the opportunity, I've been going to yard sales, going to auctions, also online, looking for products from that time. And then I was always surprised to see that on all in yard sales, basically people that were specialized in 1930s, they always had a lot of beauty products from that time on their table, which made me realize that at the time in the 1930s, the beauty products were really like an art de vivre, you know, they were used to decorate your home. Like you would use like a powder boxes, compact mirrors, beautiful perfume bottles, combs, hairbrushes, and you would use them
So
to.
the container, the packaging was as important in a way as the contents.
It was made to be like long lasting, and you would have it as you would have today when when we buy like very beautiful glasses and plates, and we want to invite people over and impress them with our beautiful cutlery and beautiful plates. And it was the same for beauty at the time. You would exhibit your beauty product on your dresser, because you had dressers back then, and on your bathroom, and it would be decoration objects and not only products that you would use for your skin or your body. And realizing
So you found the powder box. Now
yes,
you've got it there, haven't you?
yes,
Right. I'm going to zoom. Show us. So this is what caught your attention.
yes, it caught my attention, and I
Now that
thought
is very pretty.
an amazing, like beautifully made product with, it's hard to see on the camera, but it's all made out of paper that's like decorate. It's amazing. To make this today would be so complicated and so expensive, but at the time it was just common. Like every product had a specific design, like beautiful design and intent and work and craftsmanship on them. And of course they were refillable, so you would take out this piece of powder and you would refill it with another piece of powder.
I
And
almost feel like it needs to be done as a sort of collaboration with La Durée or something like that, Cecilia.
it looks a little bit like La Durée, you're right. And then when I saw it, I thought it was very, very beautiful. So I was not too expensive. And I was really surprised because I had been to many, many, many yard sales and I had never seen that name, Bienaimé. And I thought the thing that caught my eye was really this name, Bienaimé, because in French, Bienaimé means beloved. It means well loved. So it's a very beautiful name for a beauty brand. Like it's the best name ever for a beauty brand. And so
And it was the person's real name. I've got to apologize. I don't know what's happening with my visuals here, but you carry on. We're listening to you. Go on.
so I saw the name Bienaimé. I didn't know it when I saw it that it was a last name, but I bought it. And then I came home and I looked it up on Google, and I was surprised to see that it was actually a last name. And I came across all the archives from the brand that were really amazing. But I also came across some information about the founder, who was called Robert Bienaimé.
Yeah.
So I understood that it was a last name. And I read his Wikipedia article, and then I found, like, by searching a little bit further, I found a PDF that was actually the eulogy that was read at Robert Bienaimé's funeral. And it was a 4-page document, and I started reading it, and I was really amazed by the life of this man. Like he was such an important person. Like he was one of the founding fathers of modern perfumery, and he was really forgotten from memories, you know, and he had
am I right that he was a sort of a protege of
Paul Parquet.
That's it, who founded I'm putting words in your mouth. Who founded
Houbigant, and he actually was a chemist. He was spotted by Paul Parquet as a young chemist student, and he caught the eye of Paul Parquet, and he let him work in a few companies first, and then he hired him as he sensed that perfumery was going to go more and more into like synthetic molecules and creating new how to say making new advances,
going in new directions and everything,
in a more like chemistry side of perfumery. So
okay, but I'm going to interrupt you here and say, okay, so you know, you found this powder box, and yes, it's a beautiful powder box, but at what stage were you in your life then that you know, what were you doing that you made you think, oh, actually this is going to be my next life project, you know, because most of us would go, oh, that's a pretty box, and that would be the end of the story.
But it's really like by chance. It's crazy when I think about it, and when I turn back, I see the track that I've been following. It was completely by chance, because at the time I was working at Cézanne. I was a collection director, like buying director. So I had a very analytical part of the collection. I was just making, like, putting quantities on all the assortment that we were getting for the collections. So it was a very, I mean, very fulfilling job, very intense.
And had you had anything to do with the perfume industry up until this point?
Like nothing. I knew nothing about the perfume industry. Only
And
as a
did you what was your personal perfume, autobiography? Did you used to wear perfume as a teenager, or?
powdery scent. That was I've always like the perfume I've ever since. I mean, I've been wearing like a Flower by Kenzo. I've been wearing like
Interesting.
Iris from Herbolario. I've been wearing Shalimar at one point. So I've always been very drawn to powdery scent.
So you were a fan of perfume. You used to wear perfume, but you didn't have anything to do with the industry. But you had experience of retail and
Right, and
presentation
and brand creating and kind of
correct.
how to promote a brand, how do you sell it and everything, marketing.
Okay, so you've got the powder box.
That's the powder box. I read the biography of Robert Bienaimé, and that's what I was getting to, is that I was really amazed by it. When I read it, I felt the kind of kindred spirit with Robert Bienaimé about the way he was described, as also his personality. He was described, there was a big paragraph about how he was as a human being. He was described as being always in a good mood, always smiley, always never letting himself getting hurt by people who were just kind of criticizing him or jealous of him. And
I wonder if there's a study to be done, and like if you have a certain surname, it actually makes you have a certain personality. But anyway, carry on.
So I thought, I've read my share of eulogies in my life and for like studies and everything, and I thought this one was really surprising in how much emphasis there was on him being a nice, shiny person, like joyous person. And I really love that. I immediately felt that I would love if somebody would write that about me when I die. I thought it was such an amazing way to be remembered. So reading the biography, the eulogy, kind of just like put a little, like, how to say that, a pin on Robert Bienaimé in my mind. I didn't forget it.
Or perhaps like planted a seed in your mind, almost like.
And I think I saw that, and then I started looking if the brand was active. Like, I'm like, oh, like, is this brand still active today? Can I buy something from it? So I started looking it up, and I saw that there was nothing recent, only archives from like 1960s was the latest archive that I found. And then I started looking it up on the brand registering database of France, and then I saw that it belonged to somebody. The name was Nicolas Chabot, so he's
and Nicolas Chabot will be known to people who are aware of brands like now Le Galion and Ether. So yeah.
So I didn't know him at all. I did it because I didn't know anything about the perfume world at the time. But I'm like, oh, I might like talk to him and see what are his plans for this brand. But the way I started thinking about it, about the possibility to revive it, it was kind of, I always describe it as, when you go to you go buy a lottery ticket. And then during the day that you had the lottery ticket, you think about all the things you're going to buy if you win, right? But there's like almost no chance that you're going to win, but it's still nice to think about that. It's exactly the same spirit. Like, it was like an idea in the back of my mind. Oh, if I want to open my own company one day, it would be a brand, like a perfume brand that I would revive. And I started thinking about all the ideas, like the creative ideas that I would put inside this project. But I was 100% sure that it would never happen. It was just
why would it have been a perfume brand then? What do you think? Why I don't know. Why not some other sort of brand?
Because that's what I was starting to explain earlier, is that seeing all those beauty products and beauty objects from the 1930s made me think that even as a client today, I would have loved to be able to buy products like that. And I was missing that, actually, that even today, luxury brands like Chanel, like Dior, they still have plastic. And even for like the cosmetics, like the makeup and everything. And we kind of lost, this like craftsmanship of objects for beauty. We're going, but now it's coming back a little bit. But at the time that I was, because it was in 2018, so 6 years ago, almost 7 years. At the time, it was not really like fashionable to talk about. I mean, for brands to.
So you contact Nicolas and he says, "Give me 150,000 euros and we're in business."
So I contact Nicolas, but he doesn't answer. That's the thing. Like I added him on LinkedIn. I start sending an email to an email address that I found on his website, but I think later we found out that it was not the right address. So I'm like, wow, he doesn't answer. But what am I gonna do? Like maybe it's just not meant to be. But I wasn't taking no for an answer. So I was thinking,
why not? Why not? What was kind of driving you?
I don't know. I think I had the idea was planted, and then because Nicolas was not answering, I felt like if it's not Bienaime, maybe it can be another brand. So I started going to like the National Library in France, which is called the Bibliothèque Nationale, which is an amazing place where you can do some research. Like a lot of archives are accessible to anybody, and so I'm like, I'm going to look at all the old perfume brands and see which ones would be available for me to relaunch, and so
and were there any others? I mean, perhaps we shouldn't ask you.
There's so many. Right. Yes, there's so many, and then doing that, I saw many brands, and I came across, and maybe this detail of the story I haven't told you yet. I came across the brand Violet. You might have heard about Violet,
which has been revived, hasn't it?
It's been revived by three guys, and so. Their email address was mentioned in the brand registration database about the fact that they bought it, and so I contacted them, and just to ask them some question about how like they revived the brand and everything. They were super nice, and they invited me to go to their showroom, which I thought was really, really nice of them. And I asked them at the end of the discussion, I'm like, I'm trying to get in contact with Nicolas Chabot. Do you know him? Do you know how I can reach him? And they were like, we don't know him, but we have a friend from our school, like perfume school, like École Supérieure de Parfum, who interned for him. So he's called Patrice Revillard, and if you want, we can put you in contact with him.
Right. We need to pause the story there because he will also feature very, very prominently in the. But this is actually a good point, because I was going to ask this question, and Gavin, regular viewer Gavin, has asked it. This is a good point to ask this, actually, because what made you decide to recreate a brand rather than just create your own Art Deco inspired? Why not create your own one?
It's a very good question. I think what I loved about reviving a brand was just continuing the legacy of somebody. My view about Bienaimé was that it was an amazing brand, beautiful, that had a huge success, and it just disappeared because the owner died and he didn't have any children to take after him. This I learned later, but I still learned it. And I really felt like Robert Bienaimé was an amazing person, and it gave me a lot of pleasure and honor to be able to continue his legacy, because he had such an important legacy in the perfume industry.
So I'm going to kind of skip forward a few steps because there's so much we need to talk about. Clearly, in the end, you did get in touch with Nicolas, and he clearly said, "Okay, you can have it." How much? How much did he want? Come on, you can tell us. Nobody's watching.
I would say this. I'd never say the amount, but I would say it's an amount that was big enough that if I spend it, I have to do something about it, but not too big that that I was scared by the amount and that it was too risky for me and that I would lose my home if you understand. So it was just the right amount for me to say yes. So it's kind of everything. All the stars were aligned for this project to happen. And
that's a very, very good answer to an impertinent question, but obviously I have to ask the impertinent question.
Yeah, but I'm really grateful to Nicolas for making it easy for me.
Excellent. And I suppose he wasn't particularly planning to do anything with the brand. So I guess he said, okay, you have it with my blessing, etc., etc.
Yes.
So then you kind of, on paper, legally, you have this brand, but what on earth happens next? How do you then actually start making stuff?
Right. So my view from the get-go was that I wanted to make a brand that visually was very strong, that when I didn't want to launch the brand with only like one perfume or 3 perfumes on a website. I really wanted to have a visual impact so that people would understand what the brand was about, that it was about recreating this kind of Art Deco inspired beauty objects And
If I can hold one of them up actually, so that people see, because this is a sort of full bottle of
right.
one of your liquid soaps, of your La Vie en Fleur perfume, and I should say that it also comes with a pump.
Right.
And yes, it's beautiful frosted glass with a beautiful design cap. So talk to us about that. What was that the major challenge first? Was the packaging the major challenge?
It actually, yes, because when I bought the brand and I had this plan to relaunch it, of course I'm not a designer, so I have a very strong visual vision for the brand, but I don't design. So I had to find somebody who would understand what I wanted to do. And actually it was one of the most difficult things that I had to do at the beginning, because I met with many artistic directors. I explained to them what was my vision and what I wanted to create, and then they made some proposals. And at the beginning, none of the proposals seemed really in line with what I had in mind for the brand, and it was really depressing. Actually, I thought that I would never relaunch it, because I couldn't find the person that would be the right person.
What I mean, I know it must have differed from one case to the next, but what was it kind of that they weren't doing that
I
eventually you did like?
Right. Some of them were too like on a modern approach, and they were kind of just like completely erasing the past that
Okay.
I really didn't want. And some others were too much into the past, and it seemed like it was kind of a souvenir boutique from Montmartre, you know what I mean? And I really
Yes.
didn't want that. I wanted a brand that was honoring the past while being at the same time very current. And this kind of balance between highlighting the best aspect of the legacy, but at the same time being a brand that people from today would like, and not only people who are into memorabilia or souvenirs. That was the challenge. And I found this person completely by chance as well. Like, I had a lunch with a friend who arrived 45 minutes late at this lunch. I almost left the restaurant because I was really pissed. And then he begged me to stay, and I stayed. And then he was the person who recommended me to Romain, which is my artistic director. And he's like the second most important person. I mean, I would say the third. First is Robert, then it's me, and then it's me, because he really understood the assignment. And when he made his proposal, like, I had tears in my eyes of joy that I knew that I could relaunch the brand for real, because I had found the person to help me do that.
So you've got the look, which is a very striking look, and lots of people are actually commenting in the live chat saying they really love the look.
Thank you.
But it's, you know, the main thing about it is the perfume. At what point, or actually at any point, did you smell some of the original Bienaimé perfumes? And if you did, how did you get hold of them?
Okay, so we had two sources. The first source is that we managed, but it was after the launch, we managed to try some perfumes from the Osmothèque.
Right.
But
you say after the launch?
After the launch. And it was the Osmothèque. Actually, at the Osmothèque, we smelled Quelques Fleurs, the original Quelques Fleurs from
Okay.
Robert. And I was with Patrice, so the one of the perfumers that I work with, and it was an inspiration for the launch of Fleur d'été, which was the second launch after the first three were launched at the beginning. But
so I should do a little spray of it now as you're talking, because
yes.
I think you've told me that some people reckon that your Fleur d'été is actually sort of closer to original Quelques Fleurs.
That's the goal. Yeah, that's really what it is. It's when we try the original Quelques Fleurs, and we were at Aix-en when we did it, because there was the Osmothèque came at Aix-en, and they brought some of their archives with them, and so we were able to try Quelques Fleurs, the original, compared to the Quelques Fleurs from today, and it was super different. The original Quelques Fleurs was much more vintage, much more creamier, like powdery, with more powder and so it was an inspiration for Patrice to create Fleur d'été.
So one source was the Osmothèque, but you say that was after the launch. So what did you do for the original launch then? How did you know?
We managed, so that's part of the story, is that I managed to track down some lost family members of Robert Bienaimé. But
oh wow!
So Robert Bienaimé was really well loved because he had 3 wives.
Okay.
From his first wife, he had a daughter that was called Simone, who became a nun and didn't have any children and wasn't involved in his business.
If a perfume story doesn't have a nun in it somewhere, it's not good enough for me. So I'm glad we've got the nun mentioning it. Okay, go on.
Nun is covered. And then
Yeah.
he had a second wife who had 2 sons from a previous marriage. Actually, I tracked down the sons of the sons, and then even like a granddaughter, and
Wow.
also in fashion, which is amazing. Like she has the same job as me, the same job I used to have, but for another brand. So it was really funny how everything was connected. And then he had a third wife, which was really hard to track down actually, because he wasn't technically married to her, because the second wife wouldn't want to divorce, so he had to stay married to her. But he had a third wife that he met.
Yeah, it's a problem a lot of us have had in the past. I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
And the third wife he met because she came back from China. I mean, she's a French person who married a Chinese man. She had to flee China because of the revolution, and she came back to France with 4 daughters. And because it was really hard for her to return, because her family wasn't very. She was from a very bourgeois family that wasn't really okay with her marrying a Chinese person. So when she came back, it was really hard for her. And so it was recommended to her that she had her daughter baptized, so that she would be involved like in the church, and like in the socially, that she would be better off by socializing with people from the
Assimilate better. Yes. Okay.
And actually, church found a godmother for her daughter, who was Simone, who was the daughter of Robert Bienaimé. And that's how Robert Bienaimé met her at the christening of her daughter. And it was kind of like a love at first sight, and they remained together until Robert Bienamé's death. But she was like 30 years younger than him, something like that. And I was
And is that who you tracked down?
That I tracked down the daughter, the stepdaughters.
Right. Wow.
Robert Bienaimé married Marie-Louise. She had 4 daughters from a previous marriage who were half Chinese.
Yes.
The last one of the last daughter, the youngest one, she lived with Robert Bienaimé from age 5 to age 20. She's called Françoise. And today she's 90 years old, and she's still alive. And she absolutely adored her stepfather, which reinforced, for me, how amazing a person he was. She adored him. He really took them all like his daughters. Like he took care of them. And
so what does she think of these products? I mean, presumably she.
Super happy. She's really excited that the brand is relaunched. She's especially happy that it was relaunched by a woman, because at the time she wanted to relaunch it. She was 20 years old when Robert Bienaimé died. But like she said, in that time, women didn't take over companies. So she was really frustrated by it. And so she's happy that it's a woman. And so that
is that essentially why the brand didn't last? Because after he passed away, there was, to put it bluntly, there was no man to
so it's a little more
over. Is that basically the story?
So he at the end of his life, Robert Bienaimé died at 85 years old, so he was quite old, and he had a huge success with the brand. He made a big fortune with it. But at the end of his life, because he was a weaker, I guess, he had a businessman that was working with him, who kind of how to say that? Who kind of crooked him? I don't know I don't know the word in English. Sorry. He kind of
cheated.
Advantage of Robert Bienaimé, and the company went bankrupt because of this person, this businessman. And because Robert Bienaimé was 85 years old, he didn't have the heart to go into courts and to fight, and he was an old.
Cecilia, this is like a whole Netflix 5-part miniseries or something. It's and it's even got the most perfect name, Bienaimé.
Yeah. It's I mean, for me, his life is it's definitely like a movie. I always picture which actor would play Robert Bienaimé in that movie.
And who would it be? Who would it be? The ideal choice?
David Suchet, which I'm a huge fan of his, but I'm guessing maybe he would be too old to play the younger parts of his life. But I absolutely
Okay,
adore.
I'm picturing it now.
I'm a big fan. That's why I would think of him. But
No, the story is incredible, but we should also spend a little bit
sure,
of time
yes.
talking about the perfumes and the current formulations. I should say, for those of you tuning in now, that you're watching a live interview with Cecilia Mergui, the refounder of Bienaime. And if you have got some questions for her, if you haven't got any questions for her, you haven't been listening, because I've got tons of questions for her. But if you've got some questions for her, please feel free to pop them in the live chat, and if we have some time, we will take as many of those as possible. But we should talk about the current formulations of the perfumes.
That's
Now,
what I was.
little...
Sorry to
Go
cut.
on.
Sorry.
No.
No,
What are you going to say?
was even though she's now 90 years old and she doesn't even have children, she kept all of Robert Bienaimé's stuff. And thanks to her, we were able with Patrice to access his formula book. So we accessed the formulations of original perfumes. So we knew which.
So this is Patrice Révillard, right?
Sorry, it's
Patrice Révillard.
Patrice Révillard and Marie Schnerer were the two.
And they are at Maelstrom.
Yes.
Now, if the name Patrice Révillard doesn't mean anything to you, probably at least one piece of work that he has done will mean a lot to a lot of people watching, because he was tasked with the reformulation of the original Iris Gris, I think I'm right in saying. The very, very, very highly regarded reformulation. I think he's considered to be an extremely talented perfumer, but I'm right in saying as well a perfumer who has chosen to go a kind of independent path. He hasn't gone to one of the big houses. He's kind of doing his own thing.
Right.
So how did you get in touch with Maelstrom, and how did you present this project to them?
So actually, I mentioned it earlier, is Patrice was the person who helped me get in contact with Nicolas to find the brand. So as a thank you, I had to kind of like put him into the loop. I had to at least how to say that? Yeah, submit the project.
Include him in the process. Yeah.
And what I really liked about Patrice and Marie is that they were both. They knew like old perfumes really well. They were really passionate about even ancient perfumeries, especially because Patrice had already worked on Iris Gris, and so he had documented also a lot of old perfumes. And I liked the fact that they were young perfumers who had a fresh kind of mindset, and that didn't have any preconceived idea as to what a perfume like a revived 1930s brand should be like. And the first one that we really tried that we worked on was Vermeil, and this perfume for me is most representative of the brand. It's for me it was a mix, of course, of the original Vermeil notes, but also of my memories as a young girl, as a child, like when I was going into my grandmother's bathroom and looking at all her powders. Like she had Météorite of Guerlain, she had like old lipsticks. When I was little, I would go when my parents were talking with my grandparents, I would go into her bathroom and I would just like look at all the products, and I was fascinated by it. I wanted to be a grown woman so that I would be allowed to wear makeup.
We should say, for those who haven't smelt it, I think I'm right, that Vermeil is a kind of raspberry-ish iris, sort of rosy, powdery iris scent, isn't it? It's strong on the iris note.
Yes, very strong on the iris, violet, and rose. And it really...
And did Patrice see the original formula of that in Robert's books?
Yes, he saw it. Okay. It's not the same thing. It's really modernized. But the iris notes, like the violet, iris, and rose notes were there. I mean, the perfume called Vermeil means red, so there's already this meaning of like lipstick and powder kind of aspect.
So did the folks at Maelstrom, did Patrice and his colleagues, was the starting point that first they would recreate the original just so you could smell?
No,
was that
it was never. We knew that we wanted to do perfumes that were more modern and that were a nod to the past, but at the same time being current, exactly like the identity of the brand. It was the same thing for perfume.
So in terms of very specifically in terms of an olfactory profile, what does more modern mean?
So not too strong, like, because the
Okay.
perfume, the old fashioned ones were very, very strong at the time. It was, of course, perfume was a luxury product, so you would want everybody to know you were wearing perfume. And when you look at old formulas like that still exist today, like Chanel Numéro 5 or Shalimar, they are very strong. And I didn't want that. I wanted them to have, of course, character, but to be more like, how to say that, less standoffish. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Less standoffish. That's good. Yeah.
For me, I mean, my vision of perfume for Bienaime is a perfume that you wear also for yourself, not only for other people to smell you. And
Okay.
because it's really, for me, perfume is such a strong, like, vector of memories, of emotions, that you want to feel those emotions yourself. And so that's why our perfumes in that sense are more modern.
So is modernity, is it mostly a question of like the volume control, of turning the volume down, or what else is there? Are there some materials also that, for example, you would just immediately say, no, 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 that's too much of the past?
No, I never had any list of ingredients that I didn't want to use, but I
Okay.
guess in the time, the harmony of the scent, it had to be. I wouldn't want to do something that was too, like, extreme. Like, I wanted something to be harmonious, to have a kind of softness in it. So in that sense, I felt it was more modern, more in line with, um, like, the latest perfumes that, like, in
Okay.
for big brands, like, you wanted something that have a kind of softness and roundness, and not too, how to say that, too edgy, like, too, with too, that were instantly would portray a person, a strong personality aspect that you don't necessarily want to portray. So
Okay, okay, okay. No, I get it. I get it. We're going to take some questions from the audience, and but I should also at this point just put this little thing up as well. This is your website,
yes,
bnma1935.com, and I will also mention the gents at Fiol, because of course they are kind of helping you out in the UK. I know that you do a very, very, very sweetly packaged discovery set. That I would imagine is also available on Fiol, but certainly it will be available from your site.
yes.
Let's take some questions from the audience. How about... oh, actually, we've just mentioned the discovery set. This is a good question, a nice easy one. This is from Sotia, who says, I'd like to ask if you will include a sample of Monsieur in your sample set. Now, this is your latest creation.
So we now, with the launch of Monsieur, we launched a new sample set with 5 perfumes. So now Monsieur is included in our sample set. It's impossible to find the old sample set now with 4 perfumes.
Okay. So this is a good moment actually to bring in Monsieur, because this is the first perfume that you have done that is
Right,
a brand new creation, is not a sort of heritage creation.
right. Do you want me to get it so that you can look at it
Yes,
close?
go for it. Go for it. Do it. Let's see. And you can talk to... Gosh, that was very, very deceptive. I had no idea that that was so far away from you. It looks like... Right, I'm going to zoom in.
So
Oh, wow.
this is the
So a
box. So
slightly different cap.
yes, it's a new direction. It's also it's the start of a new line. Actually, we wanted
Okay.
to also show a more unisex kind of approach with this new line. I mean, of course, we had men buying the previous bottle and boxes, but for some guys, it was a little bit hard to get a pink box and a shell. It was too feminine. So we wanted to also propose a new line, inspired also from the archives of Bienaimé, and Monsieur is the first of the line.
So who's made this perfume?
Patrice Revilla.
Okay. And if I were to smell it right now, what would I be smelling? You can say whatever you want, because I have to trust you. So what would I be smelling?
It would be, it's reminiscent of, like, old colognes with verbena, citrus, but also woody and spicy with a touch of, like, cedar, ginger, cardamom as well. So
So
it's
quite classic?
quite classic, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely classic. That's the goal. The goal was really to do, when I launched that. So it's called Monsieur. It also has to do a lot with the name. So, in French, when you go from being a young man to being called Monsieur, it's like, you become respectable. It's not
Okay,
because
so
you're
it's a rite of passage. I suppose it's no. I guess with Mademoiselle and Madame, that's just like when you get married, right?
exactly. For monsieur, it's
Yeah.
different. That's why actually it's called monsieur, but it's also, I mean, it's unisex. Women also can get it, and it's. I wanted to convey the kind of like this transfer into like being a respectable person who has their own taste and their own point of view about the world. That they would be called monsieur, and the scent is really one of. I wanted something I wanted like a perfume that would be worn by men who were very elegant. They wanted to be, you know, nice and proper, smell really nice and chic, but
Yeah.
not too, how to say that, not too visible, too
Not projecting too much. So maybe discreet.
discreet, but elegant. Yes.
Yeah,
And,
that's a good one. I like that. This is an interesting question from Tamara, who says that when you were planning all of this and when you were creating the brand, were shops and distributors on board with you right away? Or no? Ah, interesting. Tell us about that then.
so I had absolutely no knowledge of any stores or distributors when I launched. So I figured I would just launch online, and then I would try to recruit like distributors and retailers as I went along. And I was very lucky because at the very beginning I got the trust of the Bon Marché, which is a very important department store in France that
Yes.
is visited by a lot of buyers from abroad. So we launched the brand in November 2021, so exactly 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and
God.
we launched. We did a pop up at the Bon Marché. Then the following February, so just a few months later, and it really helped
That
us.
must have taken quite a bit of work on your part to convince a place like Bon Marché to, to take a chance on you effectively.
Right, right. No, they were very excited by the project, by also the story, like the storytelling of the brand, but also the fact that all the products were refillable, that all the packaging were thought of as object that you could keep them and reuse them. It was
Yes.
really an approach that they hadn't seen in other brands, so they were very happy to be the first one to unveil this brand to the world.
Have you been contacted by anybody who remembers the original brand and loved their products? Ah, tell us about that.
People because the brand stopped in 1960s, so it was really forgotten from memories.
Yeah.
But I had a few people who came and told me that their grandmother or mothers, in case of old ladies, would wear Bienaimé, and they would say, "Oh, I'm wearing my Bienaimé," and they would say, "Oh, I'm wearing my Bienaimé." You know, they didn't even like mention the name of the perfume. It was, "I'm having my Bienaimé," because this word is so meaningful in French. And I found a lot of archives also in the US. The brand was specifically known in the US, was really widespread there. So a lot of the archives that I find are in the US, and I have a lot of like, it happened 3 times that somebody from the US would write an email to our like the email that we mentioned on the website, the contact page. And they say, "Oh, I found this archive of my grandmother in her bathroom. Are you interested? I can send it to you because it's part of your collection." And it's always super sweet when
So
when
what's
I
the most amazing thing somebody sent you?
oh I guess like all the memories that they have
Okay.
associated with the perfume from their brand. I mean, I love like one of the best aspects of relaunching this brand is to see people smelling the perfume and seeing their reaction. This is something that has brought me so much joy for the last 3 years because you can, especially with Vermeil, like really there are many instances where people have such strong emotions smelling this perfume because it reminds them of their grandmothers, of their mothers, and they have tears in their eyes, and
Wow.
they are so happy to be reminded of this time because it's always like childhood memories, so very comforting memories. And it's always the experience that I really cherish those times because I feel like, I'm not saving the world, I'm just making perfume. But if I can bring joy and if I can allow people to remind things that make that like warm their hearts, it's like the best mission in the world. So I'm
Absolutely.
happy to do it.
Now you've got this had this experience of reviving a brand, and you've enjoyed a lot of success so far. All of the other people who have revived older brands or refounded older brands. What do you think is the biggest mistake that they make when they refound old brands?
I would say it's not respecting the legacy, not taking advantage of the legacy, just making it new and just using the name and saying, oh, we've been around since, I don't know, 1820 or 19 something, but not showing this legacy in what they're offering. I think for me, it's like it would be the same. It's just launching a new brand and just putting a name on it. But then if you don't respect the legacy, then, I mean, I have to say, for me, even, I mean, I've been working on this brand for, 3 years since the launch, but I've been working on it for a year before. I feel a tremendous responsibility to respect the legacy of Robert Bienaimé. I mean, for me, I have a lot of imposter syndrome. Sometimes I'm like, who am I? No, he was dead, so he never gave me permission to continue his work. Maybe he didn't want his work to continue. I know that it's not the case because Françoise told me, but I feel a tremendous responsibility to make sure that everything that I do, it would have been something that he would have, that he would have okayed. It's his name, it's not my name. So I want to make sure that his name is protected, his legacy is protected, and that spiritually he agrees with the
And I would know what you're saying. I guess what you're saying is, if you're going to take a brand from the past, then make sure that you somehow reflect the past. Otherwise start your own brand.
Right.
Maria's got a question here. Which of the Bienaimé perfumes is closest to your heart? So I guess she means which of the original Bienaimé perfumes.
It's hard to answer this question because I have a specific history with all of them. I would say Vermeil because for the reasons I just explained. It just reminds me so much of my childhood memories of me going to my grandmother's bathroom, and for me it was the promise of femininity, of how I was really excited to be a woman and to be feminine and wear makeup and lipstick. So yes, I would say it's the closest to my heart.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like that one. If you could take over the whole perfume industry tomorrow, Cecilia, what's the first thing you would want to start changing? What do you think needs fixing about it most urgently?
That's a good question. I think I would make it more sustainable. Like I would impose that all perfumes be refillable first. I would.
Yours are, aren't they?
Yes. For me, it's just. I understand that for brands that have been around for a long time and they have their industrial process, it's hard to change everything when you've been around for so long. But it's just not that complicated to do refillable perfumes, and I feel like it's just such a waste. I see, for example, my one of my friends, she's a big fan of J'adore from Dior, and in her bathroom she has like 18 empty bottles of J'adore that are just like this, and it's not even really nice looking. It's an empty bottle, and it doesn't. She keeps them, but like she doesn't know what to do with them. She cannot recycle them because it's glass and metal mixed together. So, just one simple thing, I would do that, and I think I would. One other things that I would do is I would make it maybe a little more honest. Like about the ingredients, about price related to ingredients. Like I would.
What's the biggest lie that's told about ingredients then?
It's just that people are only a few people are experts. So it's when you explain the olfactive pyramid of a perfume, you don't really tell what's inside, and the price sometimes has absolutely no relation to what's the ingredients, the raw materials that are inside the perfume. And so you can embellish it with marketing and have people think that it's an amazing rare ingredient, and then when you look really into details, you realize that it's not the case. It's just a perfume with.
So do you think perfumes are becoming too expensive?
I'm thinking that some perfumes are really expensive, but they shouldn't be. But some perfumes are very expensive. It should be, because they, for example, the Iris of Jacques Fat, Iris Gris, the perfume is super expensive, but it's also because the raw materials inside are extremely expensive. So it the price should reflect that, but a lot of perfumes, it's not the case. So that's why I'm saying more honest.
No, and I hear you. We're very, very rapidly running out of time, and I want to mention some other things because you've got some really, really interesting products. Just very, very quickly tell us about your geisha ritual mattifying paper. I mean, this is such a beautiful, simple looking, maybe not simple to make object. Tell us why you decided to release that.
Yeah, this product is a nod to also the 1930s. It was a time where businessmen, like entrepreneurs, they would go around the world and they would learn about other techniques and they would bring it back to the country. And this technique, so the geisha ritual, is a paper that's made in Japan. And it's specific to, like, it's only made in Japan. You can only find it there. It's a paper that was used to remove shininess.
Yeah. I should probably use some more often, but anyway.
It's a lot, and it's used a lot by, actually, we sell it a lot to makeup artists because it's hard to find. Not only a few brands, like mostly Japanese brands, make it in internationally available, and so they're happy to find it at Bienaime. But basically, it's called Rituel de Geisha because geishas used to wear a lot of white makeup, but they would feel hot under it and they would perspire, so it would make them very shiny. And so to remove the shininess, they would dab like a little piece of paper.
And is yours made in Japan as well?
Yes, it's made in Japan. Yes, it's only made
in
Japan. So.
And this is a little detail as well, because I love geeky little details. I would like you to tell us about this. So this is the paper that I've pulled out of your little discovery pouch, but it's not only in your discovery pouch, because you've got the sort of write-up about it on this kind of like glassine type paper. I mean, why? It's beautiful, but why go with this?
Because when I was looking through all the archives that I had of Bienaimé, I came across a lipstick that was in a little box, and there was a paper around it. And then so I very delicately removed it and I opened it, and it was this kind of very thin. It was not exactly the same paper. It was another paper that today is not made anymore, but it was very thin and very delicate paper, explaining everything about the product in a very classy font. And I loved it. I'm like, oh, that's such a beautiful detail. And it made it like a treasure, you have this paper explaining the treasure that you have in your hands. And I wanted to recreate this kind of treasure feel, like you have a Bienaimé product, but it's kind of a little treasure that you have in your mind. And there's a paper explaining why it's a treasure, basically.
But is it complicated to get that paper? Because
it's very complicated. It takes 2 months to dry when you print on it, because it's glassy, like you said. And so I found a supplier, an old print company in Paris. Actually, it's made in Paris, and they print on it, and then they let it dry in a big room for all those weeks, and then they fold it so that we can have it in the product. But I wanted to have.
Go on.
No, I really it was an important detail for me to have. I feel like today it's very easy to make a beautiful product, but to make something that's really like a treasure that you cherish, it's all those little details that counts. And I wanted people to be surprised, to be happily surprised when they open the product and they get all those little papers and surprises inside the product. So
what can you tease us with for next year? I know you've got candles as well. Monsieur, I think Monsieur is out now, available, isn't it?
Monsieur was launched almost a little over a month ago. And for next year, I'm thinking we might have a new candle. So we have two now. You want me to show, or can't you see? Oh.
No, go on. We've got a couple of minutes, because I don't know what your candles look like. I haven't seen the candles.
I'll show you.
Let's take a look.
So this
who makes the perfumes for your candles?
So both were made by Marie Schnierer. So this one is called La Vie en Fleur, but it's not exactly La Vie en Fleur perfume. It's another scent that's adapted to more our home scent.
Okay.
So La Vie en Fleur, but for home.
What is that container made of? Because I can't tell whether it's glass or
porcelain that's hand painted with wood.
Oh wow! Okay.
Gold, yes. And I wanted to make a really beautiful object because they're not refillable, but I wanted people to keep using the jar when
Container.
so it becomes a really beautiful Art Deco box, you know, without the stick. You can keep in your house to store like whatever you like. So this
that's
is
that one.
La Vie en Fleurs. And then we launched in March Un Air de Jazz. And it's actually, it's a scent that was, and it's a name that was not part of the original collection, kind of like Monsieur.
Right.
And it's an homage. It's also created by Marie, and it's an homage to jazz club. So it smells like wood and smoke and rum.
Oh wow. Okay. I'll have to check those out. I will have to check those out. And in terms of perfume, do you think we might have a new perfume next year?
Yes, I mean, I definitely want to launch a new perfume next year, probably around the same period of time. I mean, around October, September, October, like the ones that we launched this year.
And is it going to be a revival perfume or a brand new perfume?
It's undetermined. I'm hesitating between two possibilities, so it's not done yet. It's still
okay. Cecilia, I can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you very, very much for talking to us and telling us all of these stories. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching and tuning in and for all of the amazing questions. I'm going to give the final question, actually, to Oriana, because I really, really like this question. And Oriana says, what scented tradition would you like to make a comeback? Would you most like to make a comeback?
So, that's in terms of like, what kind of scent from the past, or
no, or maybe something that we do with scent. So do you know, maybe do you wish people would, I don't know, use powdered, you know, scented powders, I don't know, something like that. What do you wish people would do?
I think what I would really want to bring back is perfuming. Like, I know perfume extracts are really coming back now a lot, but they're coming back with sprays, and for me it kind of defeats like the purpose of extracts. I would really want to bring back the old bottle with a glass cap, and you would
With
just,
a dabber.
yes, one drop would be enough to, and would be a very sensual gesture, and I really miss it. We want to see it back. So
I like it. That's a good answer. And Ashfaq says, please do some incense sticks too. They're quite popular here in Asia.
Something to keep.
Okay. Definitely. Thank you very much, Cecilia. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned to social media for details of new videos coming your way. But until then, be good, and I will see you soon. Bye now.